Welcome to the Ascend Your Success podcast. Whether you're just starting out or are a veteran looking to grow your business, you're in the right place. Join us to learn how to achieve financial freedom while working and living life on your own terms. Hear valuable insights, strategies, and interviews with successful entrepreneurs. Get ready to achieve the success you've always dreamed of. Ready? Let's go.
What's going on, guys? My name is Wyatt Reed, and this is the Ascend Your Success podcast. And today I got my business partner, Jacob Ninan, with me. We are doing episode 3 of the How to Get Started in Real Estate Investing series. Last episode, I don't know when these are going to drop, but last episode we talked about lead generation. What should you be doing? Free leads, paid leads? So by now, hopefully you've got your budget and you've got a kind of an understanding of where you want to start as far as lead generation. Now, the next important thing that we need to talk about is how do you even communicate with these people? Whether that's direct to seller or with wholesalers or with agents. But first off, let's take a step back and let's talk about how do we even qualify a lead? Because we know that, even if we do free leads or paid leads, we're going to get leads, but that doesn't mean that they're a deal, right? So we don't want you wasting time, energy, gas, to go look at a property that you aren't even in the ballpark or you're not even talking to a motivated person, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, I mean, again, this is going to be stuff that if you've listened to anybody else for any period of time, you're going to hear kind of over and over and over. And there's, more advanced ways of qualifying that we go into inside of our program, inside of our community. But 4 big, what do they call it? Usually the 4 pillars, I think, is what's usually thrown around in the real estate community is, a part of qualifying a lead to be worthy of your time or, moving forward with would be price. What is their asking price? Condition, so overall condition of the property. The timeline, meaning what is their timeline to sell? If I'm talking to somebody that says they're selling in 2 years from now, probably not worth my time. And then clearly motivation. Motivation meaning like what is their reasoning for selling? Before we go too far into this, I will say that in our organization, motivation trumps everything. And so I guess we'll start with that pillar first. These are no specific order, guys. We're just throwing them out there. But motivation, the reason behind selling, is typically going to produce the best yield or, movement on you doing the deal. So, for instance, if it's an inherited property, let's say a daughter and a son inherited a property and they both own their own property somewhere else, and this is just now a burden or a cost to them. They don't want to pay the property tax bill or they don't have the money to go fix the place up and resell it. Clearly they're motivated as like, hey, we don't want this house that our parents once lived in just sitting vacant and dealing with squatters or whatever, or we don't have the time and money. And then outside of that, it's something that they're going to get to sell and receive some money for. So it's also going to help improve their life as well. Clearly something like that is going to be a better, more motivating factor than the person just woke up one day and said, yeah, you know what? It's time for a change. I'm going to, I just want to downsize or whatever. Not to say that those aren't motivating factors, but as you guys are kind of piecing together, clearly one trumps the other. Also, what I wanted to say about that is even though someone says they want a certain amount, even though from the beginning it doesn't sound like a appealing price point for you as the investor, if you have the foresight and the ability to look past that and listen and talk to them about the deeper reasons of why they want to sell, you'll often find that motivation, like I said, will be the determining factor, not so much the price. Yeah. So yeah, motivation key there. And I could go on and on and on about motivation, but I guess we can go into maybe price. That's usually the biggest hiccup for most people when they're starting.
Yeah, I want to say real quick that's been something that we've recently started to transition in our own business, just working with you guys, is that for me, I didn't want to waste my time if I wasn't in their price ballpark, right? Mm-hmm. But what I found was that if we get in the living room with a seller and they're motivated to sell, in times they are coming down on their price significantly if they're truly motivated. And that's kind of changed our mindset a little bit about going even if we're not in the same ballpark, right? We do want to be close. Like if you're $200,000 off, oftentimes, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not going, even if I was $50,000 off, I wasn't going in the first place. Now, we go, if we're $50,000-$60,000 off, because I'm confident in my sales abilities in person. That's the key, in person.
Well, I mean, we've been JVing on some stuff here lately, and we're kind of co-training a new acquisitions guy together. And just to give an example, there was a particular lead where the person didn't seem like they really wanted to budge. And that acquisitions manager was kind of like, yeah, I don't know that this will make sense for us because they're so far off from price. I'm pretty sure we sent him. And didn't he end up locking that? Wasn't that deal that he locked up?
Yeah. The 400.
Yeah. So at a price point that makes sense on a deal that we can do. So just to give you guys some foresight, like I know price, I get it. At the end of the day, it really does come down to price, because if you can't buy the property for what makes sense for you, then you just can't buy it. But what I'm trying to say is people, are throwing out higher numbers because it's just like, hey, if I throw out this number, then if they counter me, at least it'll be close to where I actually want it to be. But again, just to give some foresight with price as well, anybody listening to this right now, myself included, there's a certain level or there's a certain process, there's a certain level of comfort or even relationship that you're going to have to take me through personally before I just start telling you I'm going to give you the house for less. I mean, you guys are going to come across leads where people want a number that already makes sense. It happens. Doesn't happen often, but it happens. But the reality is, if this is the first time I'm talking to you and we're just, at this point, you're just a voice on the other end of the phone. I don't know you at all. Yeah, there are ways to negotiate and build a relationship over the phone, no doubt. I know people do it all the time. But my point is, it's a process. Just because they throw out a high price doesn't necessarily mean this isn't going to turn into a deal. Also, for those situations where people are throwing out a ridiculous price, like let's say, houses in the area normally go for $200,000-$300,000 fully renovated, and they're like, yeah, give me $1 million and you can have it with some kind of like, smart aleck answer like that. It's real simple to quickly check the temperature on that, and you just go, oh, okay, well, you're not actually really wanting to sell your property then. And then you're going to get, they're going to hang up on you, or they're going to say, well, I get these calls 8,000 times a day. I'm just throwing out a number, but hey, if you're really serious, and now you kind of get through the fluff and now you can have an honest conversation. And it's just that takes 10 seconds to say and move on to the next one. But did you want to elaborate anymore?
Yeah, no, I think that's oftentimes new investors, I think that's one of the things that holds them back, is because they don't want to give a lower offer. It's kind of like
there's an anxiety around it. Yeah. No, for sure. Like I've talked to my acquisitions managers. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to train or get through the head of anyone I've ever had in my own team was we call it, we refer to it as lowball offer, but it's really not a lowball offer. It's what we can afford to pay. It's like what makes sense for the deal. Now, as the seller, they might think it's lowball, but in the grand scheme of things, most of us are not just pulling a number out of the sky. We're running it, we're underwriting the deal, we're factoring in all our costs, your hard money costs or holding costs, your agents' commissions and your taxes and, utilities you're going to have while you fix it up and all the different numbers. And then you're creating this number based on what kind of profitability you're trying to make. So I encourage you guys to shift your language and mindset on that. It's not a lowball offer. It's just the offer you can pay. It's the amount you stand to be able to pay to make this a deal. But I want to tell you that you have to get over that. You have to get past that price thing being the most important thing in the initial onset, because some of the biggest deals we have done and some of the biggest deals we continue to do from the inception of receiving the lead, if the person shared with us how much they wanted, at that point, it was not a deal, sometimes not remotely close to a deal. So please remove that from your mindset.
Yeah. And I think, I also think that's one of the important reasons why you need to start on free leads, because I've seen this in teaching the acquisitions guys, is they are fine making lowball offers to wholesalers or agents or things like that, but when they get in front of a seller, it's a different story, because they know it's honestly no different. You're just in front of the person getting the offer at that point, right?
Yep.
And so, like, you're a business, you've got to make money. You're not in this not to make money. Eventually, you may be able to do things that help people where you don't have to make as much money as you usually do. You get presented with those opportunities, and we take those opportunities often. But you are a business. We've got to put food on the table. on the table for our families. We've got to pay our people. We've got to pay for our marketing, and we are a business, so we've got to do this to make money. So it's very, very important. So we talked about motivation. We talked about price. This is another very important thing, and it's probably the blunt of your conversation with the seller, at least if it's over the phone, and that's what is the condition of the property, right?
Yeah. So, depending on how you guys are approaching this, assuming, most of the people watching are trying to run virtual acquisitions. When we say virtual acquisitions, meaning you're calling people. I'm not necessarily meaning like you're in another country or another state, but if you're not going out to the place, I mean, you're basically trying to do this virtually, from a phone, from the computer, whatever. Our operation is an in-person model, but all of our qualifying and up until the point where our acquisitions managers go on the appointments, up until that point is all done virtually. So you're just trying to get a gauge of it. You're trying to get a general idea of the condition. Now, one thing we have made sure we try to do with our team internally when we're qualifying leads is we don't want to sound robotic, and we don't really want to sound like everyone else. So we're trying to have a general conversation. But in the process of having a general conversation, we're dropping cues and questions about the condition of the place. It also helps to know what is the seller's perception of their property. We have it's usually never in between. It's usually one way or the other. But you'll have sellers that tell you, oh, it's great, and you get out there and it's horrible. Or they tell you, man, it's terrible. I don't even know if you want this house. And you get out there and you're like, man, this is nothing. Right. It's very rarely in between those two things. But either way, you still want a perception. You still want to know potentially what you're getting into, because, most of us will run, I guess we call them soft numbers. If I'm asking you simple questions like, hey, really we're wanting to know about the major components, right? The roof, the HVAC, the electrical, the plumbing, the foundation, that kind of stuff. And most people know the answer to how old is your roof, how old is your HVAC, how old is your water heater. And most people know generally if there's a major foundation issue. I mean, if you're living in the house every day, you're going to know if the floor's falling in. You're going to know when you walk through the living room if you're walking at an angle because the house is slanted or whatever. So these are typical questions you can ask. Personally, I don't like to beat people to death with this because, again, I'm not trying to come off like everyone else they've had to talk to that week, that day, or however many calls they've received. Just trying to get a general idea. But
yeah, no. And something I wanted to touch on is that it's going to be different for each. It's going to be different, but it's going to be the same, right? For each different marketing channel. So like, for example, if you're talking to an agent or a wholesaler, most of the time you already know what they estimate or what they're asking for it, what they estimate the rehab's going to be, remodel, what that's going to look like. They're estimating, they're showing pictures. So you already have a good understanding of what this property looks like. Whereas if you're getting a call from a postcard, on the free leads, you can go ahead and just run the numbers and say, based on what you have here, this is where I think I can be. If we're in that ballpark or, whatever, let's come take a look. Whereas if you're doing the postcards, for example, our postcards have prices on them. Like usually they're 70% of value of whatever that company values that house at. And they send it out and we're getting calls back saying, hey, is this offer legit? And that's how most of the conversations are started. And yes, sir, Mr. Seller. That's really if your property is in really good livable condition. And this is how you don't sound like a robot, right? Does that sound like your property? Is it livable? Is it TV ready? Is something we say? Does that sound like your property? Well, this, that, and the other. And okay, well, can you kind of give us a little bit of information? What's the bed's best square foot? I always group my questions together. Like, what does that look like? And so you get your bed's bash, your square foot. Well, maybe if I gave you like $20,000, where do you think you would put it at first in the house? You think you'd update the kitchen, or you think you'd paint it, or do you think you'd update the property? And then you can kind of tell where, you can go through a script, but not sound like you're going through a script. You need to get your script, which we have scripts, but you can get them anywhere and everywhere. You can get them off ChatGPT if you want to.
Well, one thing I'll say is, guys, you're going to start off and you're going to suck. For lack of a better word, you're gonna suck to start off with, and you're gonna sound robotic when you start because you're gonna be reading that script. But repetition, practice make perfect kind of thing. The more you do it, the more fluid you'll become, the more comfortable you become. And now instead of reading a script, you're just gonna know, the cadence, and you're gonna remember how to take people through it. So don't overanalyze.
Find somebody to role play with.
Yeah, role play. I mean, if any of you that are listening that have significant others or spouses or whatever, role play with them. Like most of us are pretty vulnerable or comfortable with our girlfriend or wives or whatever. For the females, your husbands and boyfriends, you can sit there and talk to them, role play. But yeah, just start. Don't get, we have the scripts, just do them. It's not going to sound perfect or be perfect, but just do it. But yeah, that's super important what he was saying about that. I did want to talk timeline real quick. So timeline, again, it's just simply like how quickly are you looking to, if you were interested in selling your house, how quickly is this something you'd look to do? Typically what we look to look at is 30, 60 days or less. That doesn't mean if you say you're going to sell your house later than that we're going to just write you off. We could make a whole nother episode about how to organize and follow up with leads. But just for the sake of letting you guys know, we don't cast those leads off, but we're going to put more of our focus, like our immediate focus and our actual contacting heavier on these 30 to 60 30-day timelines, because these are deals that we're looking to do now. I mean, if I get on the phone right now with someone and they tell me, well, I'm looking to sell in the next 30 to 60 days, regardless of what you've heard, we close quick, 7 to 10 days, all that jazz. Most closings take up to about 30 days, even with investors. Now, we close plenty of deals faster than that. I've closed deals inside of like 5 days before. Closed one in 3 days one time because title was already clear on it. But the point of the matter is, if I talk to a guy today who says he wants to sell in the next 30 days, even if he signed the contract today, chances are we're going to close in that 30 days anyway. Or if he said 60, you're just focusing on someone that can take action now and then proceeding with your time, putting your time and investing your time and getting that deal to close. So just because someone says they can't sell for 60 days, that's still a deal that we're going to take action on immediately, because it could take us that long anyway to get it closed by waiting on them to move or whatever whether there's title issues or whatever, you never know. But we want to focus on things that we can turn in that timeline just for the sake of turning cash conversion, as we call it, cash conversion cycles, stuff like that. So I don't think there's a whole lot to say about timeline other than that simple, but if someone does say, hey, I'm not looking to sell for 6 months, great. Set up some kind of follow-up or reminder, whatever you're using, make sure you follow up with this person periodically. If you tell me you're not selling for 6 months, I'm not waiting for 6 months to follow up with you. I'm probably going to hit you back in 30 days, but I'm also not going to go waste my time saying, well, if you're not willing to sell for 6 months, I'm probably not going out to the house, probably not making an offer. Like, you're just not motivated enough yet for me to push you to that point, right? So
yeah, for sure. I just remembered this for those of you guys that are listening that want our script personally. We actually have a free bundle that we give away. It's got our scripts, our calculators, everything. Just some resources to kind of help you get started. If you want that free bundle, either DM me or Jacob on Facebook and just say free bundle, and we'll send that link over to you so that you can get that. So yeah, we're hitting time right now. We just hit 20 minutes. I think the most important thing about communicating and this whole sales process is the consistency, is the follow-up. You're often never going to sell someone on the first conversation. And so I can't tell you how many times, like, a new person will come in to our community, they'll do a postcard campaign, and then they won't do follow-up afterwards. They try to sell them one time, and then after that, we're done. Once we started reaching back out to these sellers every 10 days, every month, every 30 days, every other, whatever, we set these guys on a follow-up. Whether you're doing this without a CRM, I don't think you need a CRM unless you're doing multiple deals. You've already done deals. For me, when I first got started, I had an Excel sheet, and I wrote down the name of the person, their address, and I wrote notes on our conversation, and I wrote down the day that I spoke to them. And then if they said no, or if they said anything other than yes, I'm going to be following up with them in the next 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on how motivated they were or how, whatever that conversation looked like, and I try to always set that expectation too on the call, is like, okay, well, hey, when can I reach back out to you? Because you never leave the ball in their court. Oftentimes people will say, well, I'll call you back. I don't like that. So even if they say I'll call you back and they won't give me a time, I often call them back, within a week or two. So follow-up and consistency is the most important part of sales, no matter what you do.
Absolutely. As you guys can tell already, we kind of love real estate. But yeah, that's all.
I love it, man. Love it. There's so much more we can talk about with all of this, but hey, look, here's the deal. We can go on for hours and hours about this stuff because it's what we love to do and we love to teach it. But if you want to learn more and you're thinking, man, I'd like to talk to these guys and I'd like to figure out how I can do this personally, or I need somebody to hold my hand while I do this, go to ascendyoursuccess.com. Fill out the application. We don't have a team. We don't have VAs. Like, it's me and Jacob. So one of us will reach out to you and talk to you personally about what you got going on, where you're at in your real estate journey, and we'll talk about, are you a good fit for our community, or are we a good fit for you? And maybe we can work together. But whether you're in or you're out, we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.